Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. The Gypsies. By Yoors. Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin's The Gypsies is a narrative poem that was composed in 1824 and first published in 1827. During his exile at his mother's Mihailovsky farm in northern Russia, we penned a series of so-called Southern poetry. Testing moral boundaries and adapting to common-sense traditions are the underlying themes of this poetry, which also serves as the poem's title. As a noblesse from the town of Aleppo, he joins the Gypsies' camp, which is a world apart from the one he was used to. Romanticism promoted a view that those who live in cities are more disconnected from nature than those who live far away from civilization and peace with nature. In this poem, the Gypsy camp, where life is lived in accordance with a separate set of rules, as well as a different perspective on freedom and love, is used to depict this concept. While the poem is structured as a dialogue between the three major characters, Alec, Zamfira, the old Gypsy man, it has been utilized as an inspiration for numerous operas as well. As the poem opens, a description of a riverside location in Moldavian Bessarabia's gypsy camp appears. Families cook supper while children play and sing. An elderly man relaxes by the river while his food becomes cold, and he's alone. He is patiently awaiting the return of his young daughter, who is used to roaming the neighborhood at her leisure and taking full advantage of her sense of independence. His daughter, Zamfira, has returned with a young man, Aleppo, who is fleeing the city's regulations, and she has invited him to join their camp. This is the point at which the descriptive part comes to an end and the action begins. He accepts the young man despite his poverty and offers him a place to stay and food in exchange for his agreement to live with them. Zamfira is eager to seduce Aleppo now that he has decided to stay. Because the entire camp was leaving, the old man wakes them up the next morning. It is presented and detailed in great detail. The dogs are barking, donkeys transport the children, and old and young people sing their tunes as they go about their daily routine. Despite the fact that they live in poverty, they don't seem depressed. While they are celebrating their newfound freedom, Aleppo is still apprehensive despite his newfound independence. Even though he's left town and his former life behind, his heart still beats with desire, and he knows that passion will return to him. Asked if he misses his former life, he tells Zamfira he wants to stay by her side since she's so different from everyone else he's ever met. Those in the town lack freedom and love, and he believes it is impossible to be happy without these. The old guy tells him about how different their way of life is from what he was accustomed to in the past. In the absence of luxury, it is probable that he may not be content with only having the option of being free. He recalls one of their former members. He had a youthful spirit despite his advanced years, yet he was unable to adjust. His dying wish was to be brought back to his hometown and buried there. In the absence of luxury, it is probable that he will not be content with only having the freedom. He recalls one of their former members. Despite his advanced age, he still possessed a vibrant spirit, but he was unable to adjust. It was his dying wish to be laid to rest in his hometown. The Gypsies' manner of life remained the same for 2 years after Aleppo joined them. They were always on the move, seeking enjoyment in new locales. It didn't take long for Aleppo to become accustomed to his new rural existence and soon forgot about his old one. On one occasion, he heard Zamfira sing about a woman's desire to have sex with a younger man instead of her boring husband. Even after Aleppo's admonition to stop singing since he dislikes the song, she persisted. Despite Zamfira's admission to Aleppo, the song is actually about him, since she has moved on from their relationship and found a younger man to love instead. There was no harm in singing this old song, the elderly man tells Aleppo. He first heard it from his wife when she was a child, singing it to Zamfira as she slept by the fire. Zamfira confesses to her father one evening that she has grown tired of Aleppo and wishes to reclaim her freedom. Zamfira and another name are mentioned in Aleppo's slumbering ramblings. He tells Zamfira later that he had a dream about a person standing in the way of him and her, and he lost faith in everyone, even her. Later, he tells Zamfira about the other person he saw in his dream who stood between them, and how that made him lose faith in everyone, even her. Aleppo tells the old man about his grief over Zamfira's infidelity, and the old guy comforts him by pointing out that she was only 17 at the time. Aleppo was heartbroken as he remembered the nights they spent together, kissing and talking about everything, as he was free-spirited and unable to be faithful. That ferocity has faded away. After that, an old guy related a story about meeting Zamfira's mother, Mariula, when he was young. Once Mariula met someone new, she followed the Gypsies to a new camp, where they stayed for only 2 days before leaving. When she returned to the Zamfira, she found an elderly man who had been left heartbroken and enraged by women. When she returned to the Zemfira, she found an elderly man who had been left sad and enraged by the loss of his wife. When Aleko pressed the old man for an explanation as to why he had not exacted vengeance on Mariula and her new lover, the man replied that the youth possessed the untamed spirit of a bird. Once, while arranging for their next rendezvous, Aleko happened to catch Zemfira and her new lover as they left ways. She tried to calm him down, but she was also killed since she accused him of committing a crime while she was trying. The following scene depicts Zemfira and her lover's funeral. Both of them were buried next to one another in front of Aleko. He contacted Aleko afterward and asked him to leave their camp. Despite the fact that they do not follow the same regulations as the other men, they do not allow murderers to remain in the camp, therefore Aleko was left behind. It is hard to escape love or fate, as the epilogue reminds us, so we should be wary of the perils of the gypsy lifestyle. Characters: Aleko, Zemfira, the elderly gentleman, and the young woman in love. Aleko, a young noblesse from the town who escaped a life of stifled freedom and unrequited love because of the laws of the land. He meets Zemfira, a young gypsy, and joins her camp, where he falls in love with her and is accepted by her father. An idealistic young man who has finally found some peace and independence after escaping his past is depicted. This new lifestyle is not possible for him unless there are rigorous rules and regulations in place about morality, ethics, and justice. When Zemfira stopped loving him, he remained selfish, as foretold by the old elders. Having committed a crime out of jealousy, he ends up alone and without a place to call home. Zemfira, a young gypsy who seduced Aleko, is shown in the poem's outset as being earnest in her affection for him. In accordance with the social norms of their community, her father granted her the freedom to live her own life as she saw fit. He forewarns Aleko that she will be unfaithful. She shares some characteristics with her mother, who also left her husband for a new lover after only a few days of dating. After telling Aleko she is no longer in love with him, she is defiant, confronting him and provoking his jealousy, which results in his death. The old man. Aleko is a respectable young guy who is accepted by a kind elderly man who provides him with food and shelter so that he can learn about this new way of life and discover something that works for him. He warns him about his daughter's temperament and character traits, saying that love and independence cannot be tamed by anyone or anything. He is a stark contrast to Aleko, who resorts to violence and retribution to deal with his problems. The father of the murdered daughter kindly advises her killer, Aleko, to go out of there, as they don't want to live with the guilt of the crime any longer. Pushkin, Alexander Sergeyevich, was born on July 6, 1799, in Moscow, Russia. He is widely regarded as one of Russia's greatest poets and a key figure in the development of Russian literature. Peasants Nikita Kozlov and Irina Yakovleva take care of him when he is just a few years old. Russian poet Alexander Pushkin's father was descended from an old noble family, while his mother was a descendant from an Ethiopian prince who had great influence on Peter the Great. The Lyceum near St. Petersburg was where he was educated as a child. He began composing poetry while still in high school, and by the time he graduated, he had become well known among poets. Traditional classicism was his first inspiration, but as his writing evolved, so did his interest in Romanticism's many guises. He surrounded himself with like-minded thinkers, which fueled his already burgeoning imagination. Mozart and Salieri, Waiting in the Time of Plague, with Dubrovsky, The Captain's Daughter, with Dubrovsky, Gypsies, with Dubrovsky, and Yevgeny Onegin, with Onegin, are among his most popular compositions. On January 29, 1837, he succumbs to the effects of the shooting. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.